Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, cool.
That it's trying to connect again.
Okay.
Come on. So if this doesn't work,
We can always just record your Zoom and then you could just post it.
yeah,
Right? Yeah.
yeah, that's probably what we're gonna have to do.
Okay.
Well, let's go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Get started, and I'll just post it afterwards if it doesn't end up connecting.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Hey, technology.
I feel like every time there's just always something. Even if it's the smallest thing, it's just such an inconvenience when you're prepped and ready to go and then something just goes wrong. But
it shows we're all human, and that's personally what I think connects all of us, is showing our humanness.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I love talking to you.
It's so true though, isn't it?
It's true.
Makes everything so much nicer and easier and calmer.
Yes, I agree 100%. All right, so let's go ahead and get started because I don't want to hold you up all night. Again, thank you so much for doing this with me. I truly appreciate it. But before I have you introduce yourself, I just wanted to let everyone know how I even came in contact with you and what attracted me to you and the services you offer.
Okay.
So I am Kalila Adams with Caremark Realty Group. And I'm sorry, Carmark. I always say care because I care.
No, it is Caremark.
Care, yeah, Carrie.
Yeah, you said it the right way. You said it the right way.
The first time.
Yes,
So
you did. You were right.
Yeah. Carmark. Caremark. I always want to say Carmark because it's spelled C-A-R-M-A-R.
Everybody says Carmark. It's funny.
Yeah. Yes, but here, this is the logo, Caremark.
Yep.
Sorry about that, Carrie. So anyway, Carrie was hosting a live video. Actually, Carrie and Sheena, I believe, they were doing a live Zoom, and you were a guest speaker on there, or you were present and you were speaking. And I just noticed you offered a wealth of knowledge that I could appreciate. And I just saw something a little bit different in you than I've experienced with other people in the mortgage industry, and it stood out. So with that being said, I said, oh, I got to connect with Tina, see how we can make magic happen.
Love it. Love it.
So thank you for being open and willing to do this.
Absolutely. The more educated people we have, the better the experience is for everybody. So
exactly. So with that being said, can you just introduce yourself and let us know what you do, the company you work for, and how long you've been in the industry?
Yes, ma'am. So Sheena just asked me if we were still going live. So I told her she can't log in and she can't go live.
Oh yeah, I feel
Looks like she was
horrible.
waiting. I know, that's okay. She just was waiting. So
Well,
sorry, I just wanted her to know what was going on.
yeah, I'm getting text messages too. I'm excited. People were actually gonna join, and of course it messes up. Sorry, everybody.
You're
Uh,
so funny. That's okay. So my name is Tina Abbatecola, and I work for Caliber Home Loans in Downers Grove. Caliber is actually in the top 5 non-bank mortgage lenders. We do a lot of volume across the country. I personally am licensed in Illinois, Wisconsin, and Indiana. I've been in the mortgage industry for 28 years.
oh wow.
Um, you know, funny story about me. So I really appreciate what you said, and thank you so much for acknowledging, because um, it's nice to see that people actually do appreciate how much extra I put in for people. So when I started in the business, I was out of college, needed a job, and I worked for Dominic's. I worked at a grocery store. They wouldn't give me full-time hours, so I found a job at a mortgage company. I had no idea what mortgages were. I didn't understand any of it. I just knew I needed a job. So I started, and it was during one of the biggest refi booms, so nobody could train me. So they handed me the Fannie Mae guideline book, which was literally this thick, and they handed it to me because in 1992 we didn't have the computers, the ease of computers, and all. Actually, fax machines were just coming out at that time. So
Wow.
they handed me this book and said, just learn about it. So okay, so I read the guidelines, whatever, and then as I got to work with people, I got to hear people on the line. I was a processor, and I loved hearing. I got to talk to people. Back then, it was a little bit different. Again, no computers or anything, but it was just really cool to connect with people, talk to them, listen to their stories, and know that I was helping them buy a house. It was just I was 22 years old. It was just like the coolest thing ever, because I've always liked helping people, and you don't really know where life is going to take you. And I just fell in love with that part of it. I love it's exciting, as tense and annoying as it could be sometimes in our business. It's just, I love it so much. And after 28 years, I feel like I'm still in my honeymoon phase with the industry.
Oh wow.
It's I know I actually have a lot of loan officers that make fun of me for that, but it's true. I'm very passionate about it, and I always promised myself that if I didn't do it with the passion that I do, that I wouldn't do it anymore, because it's not fair to my buyers, my realtors, my business partners, and people. It's not fair for me to be half-assing it, if you will.
Yep.
And that's where I feel like a lot of people, that's what happens. A lot of people are in it for a paycheck, and then there's other people that are in it to truly educate and help people. And that's me.
Yeah.
So for me, it's always been about the people from day one. So I was in operations for 10 years. And then in 2002, I just couldn't stand sitting back and watching loan officers do their jobs the way they did. So I decided to become one. So I've actually been in the business since 92, but I became a loan officer in 2002, and just kind of, never looked back on my ops background. However, my operations background is what helps me do what I do today, because I processed, I underwrote, I closed, I was an operations manager. So when I'm talking to people, I'm being realistic. I never promise people things that I can't do. I don't, that's just not, I was never that person anyway, but I feel like that just helps. So for me, that's just been a big part of who I am, and being able to bring that into the business. So thank you. I love when it's, when it's,
When it shows.
yes, I love that people appreciate that, and they don't just reduce you to a number. A lot
Yeah.
of times when people call and all they want to know is what your rate is, it's like it's almost like the swiping right and left. Nobody knows who you are because they're
Yep.
just looking at it. I feel like that's kind of the same thing when people rate shop you, and you're missing out on a really great transaction with someone who actually really cares about you, and even what happens to you after closing. So, I got to rely on people like yourself to let other people know that that's what they're missing out on just by shopping for rates. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but
No, I agree 100%. And that, thank you for saying that, because that is very important. One thing you said was you care about people. It's about people. It's not about the paycheck. And
right.
that's where we're similar, because at the end of the day, I care about that person and the end. Like, I don't care about my paycheck up front. I care about 5 years down the line, are they still happy in their home? And if they're not, they have someone to reach out to that they can depend on and trust to help them. So it's all about relationship building.
Yes.
I can honestly say that the clients that I've worked with, or that I'm currently work with, like, I have a connection to them. It may not be initial, but after working and speaking on a constant basis, it becomes like a serious bond. And when the transaction is over, I'm like, I'm kind of missing communicating with them so often, which helps. I promise you, I very rarely have to depend on reminders to follow up with my clients, because they're always on my mind. I'm thinking, oh, I wonder if they moved in yet, or I wonder if they got that new couch they were talking about, so I'm always following up. So
Awesome.
it's great to hear that you feel the same way.
Absolutely, I do. I love when I get pictures of babies that they had and Christmas cards, and
yes,
I mean, though, I've been to people's homes for housewarming parties. I've been at holiday parties. Like, I love that people incorporate me into, because you're right, you do bond with them, and and you are such a big part of their life. And I remember one particular Christmas party I was there, and I just remember looking around going, I got to help make this happen. Like,
yep.
they were so happy to be. She was like, she always had a dream. They were, they were in their mid-20s. They were engaged and all that. And she said she always wanted to celebrate or have, Christmas. And she had a big tree and everything. And it was like, I just got to sit and watch them. And it was like, I got to be part of that. Like, that, to me, that, as much as I get frustrated sometimes, I think about those times, those moments, and I just know that those moments far exceed any kind of small aggravations that come, our way during what's happening. Even now, people are on edge and, a little more angry and everything else. And, you do your best to not take it personal. And at the same time,
gosh, yes.
at the same time, you hope people appreciate that you're being honest with them. Most people are. Some people want to hear what they want to hear, but for the most part, people are very grateful. Even if they don't like what you have to say, it's the truth. And a lot of people do appreciate that, so that's something I always tell everyone up front. If you want to hear the truth, we're going to get along. If you want me to tell you lies, then we're not going to get along. It's not going to happen. Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I actually have a client that she was so upset about a situation, she hung up on me. And a part of the business is just being patient, because you do get to know these people, so you understand, okay, I know you're frustrated, I'm going to let you have your moment. But of course, immediately I get a text back saying how much she loves and appreciates me, and I'm so sorry. So those are the moments that I appreciate. I understand
Absolutely.
It's nothing personal. Everybody's going through a hard time. This process isn't easy at all.
No.
Outside of COVID-19, it's just not, it's not. If it was so easy, everybody would be homeowners. Like, I say it all the time.
Right. It's true.
So with that being said, what challenges are you seeing now that you're facing this COVID-19 situation? Are you seeing a lot of challenges with buyers?
Yes. So I have longtime clients of mine, both have very good jobs. They're selling a property and buying another property 3 days under contract. He got furloughed on his job. I know. And unfortunately, we can't lend money to people who don't have a job, even though people are collecting unemployment. I think that's a big part right now, is people think that unemployment is still money and they could still pay. That's not how it works, because that's temporary. That's not, and you may not go back, and then you don't get that all the time. That there's a limit on how long time goes by. So we have to wait until people are back on. At Caliber, I can't speak for everyone, but at Caliber, if the person acknowledges that they're going to go back, they know they're going back within a certain amount of time, which he does, and they want to move forward and stay under contract, their seller's willing to work with them. In this case, they send us an email, and we're calling it a parking lot. We've got the loans kind of parked where they're kind of in limbo, like they've been approved, but nothing's being worked on, no times and days, days in underwriting kind of thing. We have the notice that they want to move forward, and then as soon as the person gets their job back, we're going to take it out of limbo and pick up where we left off. But compliance wise, there isn't. So the other reason for that is not only compliance, but if you have an underwriter and a processor and all these people working on a loan that isn't going anywhere, you're taking away from the loans that are
yeah,
fully processed. So
Mhm.
it's time management on top of everything else. But the good news is that I'm happy about that, because a lot of places are making people cancel altogether and come back in the future if you have a job or whatever. And that's,
Yeah.
that's, I mean, we can only do what we can do, but I'm grateful that I work for a company that customer service is not just a term that's thrown around. Like everyone, all levels of management actually truly mean it, all the way up to the CEO of the company. So I'm very grateful for that.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so how does a situation like that affect the rate lock when you have to park it?
Good question. So obviously when we locked it, we didn't know that was going to happen. So what'll happen is the unfortunate part, which of course I told them up front right away, if it doesn't go back within the time frame it was locked in, the rate will expire. So the loan stays in process, whatever, the rate will expire. And then when they come back and these back, we can relock the rate, but now they are subject to worst case pricing. So
Okay.
if the rate was higher when they locked in initially, they still get to keep the same interest rate. If the rate is higher at the time they lock, they have to go for the higher. And the reason for that is obviously if we extend a rate, it costs money and it takes away from other people that are, trying to buy. And so if we don't know how long it's going to be before someone goes back to work, how long do you extend it for?
Right.
And it costs money each time you're extending. So that it just makes more sense. And they understood that. They were okay with it. Again, I always want to make sure I explain to people, and whether they like it or not, I mean, that's the truth, and they can, ask me whatever questions. And thankfully they were very good about it. They understood. So, but like I said, they're longtime clients. I've helped them 3 times in the past. So.
Oh, good. Well, I'm happy that it worked out. I hope everything
Me too.
falls into place.
Yeah, they found their perfect house, and 3 days later he got furloughed. That's kind of the biggest thing. So we're really pushing that now. Obviously, we have to keep asking people during the process if they're still working. On the back end, they're verifying businesses are still, still open. Are they essential businesses that people have, and things like that. And then we're doing 3 days before closing. We have to get a verification from the employer. Used to be 10 business days, now it's 3. Some companies are doing it 2 days, some are doing it the day of. And I heard even on the broker channel, on the broker side, so I'm retail, on the broker side, some of them are doing it 10 days after closing to make sure that the person didn't know at closing that they were losing their job, and because those are the people that most likely won't make their first mortgage payment.
And then in the event that they find out that something has changed, what happens? Because obviously they're in the house already.
Yeah, well, there's things that could be done if the person knew they were losing their job and you could prove it, then the acceleration clause in the mortgage comes into effect, which basically means that you knew that something was going to change and you didn't acknowledge. It's almost kind of in the category of fraud to a certain extent, because you knew that I believe there's even a document you have to sign that says that you don't know, that you're not aware of any changes to your current situation, like you're not losing hours or getting cut or losing your job or whatever. So there's really nothing anybody's going to hide from the lender. The forbearance, going into forbearance on your loan, trying to refinance, we're going to find that. Like, that's my biggest thing, is I'll tell everyone, just be honest, because that stuff gets found out sooner or later. You know what I mean? And if you're prolonging it, it's not really going to help you. It just makes it worse. I know, so, yeah.
Oh gosh.
I know.
Happening. So
yeah,
considering those things, then where do you see the industry going after all of this is done? And I don't necessarily want you to say this is what's gonna be.
right.
It's kind of more so like with that, because I'm sure it's gonna happen. What does that mean for us after this is over?
Well, I think there's gonna be a couple different things. My personal opinion, I think a lot of people who potentially have too big of homes right now are gonna sell and downsize and realize that they don't need as much house as they have. and that if something like this, God forbid, ever happens again, they're in a better position because they don't have such a big mortgage payment. So I think that's one little piece of it. I think that there's going to be, in my mind, I keep visualizing like a Black Friday morning where everybody's pushing out the doors and running out into the streets going to buy. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of people that were stuck in the house that hated their house now, or found all the things they didn't like it, or they didn't like renting, and they don't like their landlord. I think we're going to see a pretty busy summer and fall. I think maybe the rest of the year. But I think people are going to be a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? I think people are going to have budgets. I think people are going to understand what a budget is. A lot of the younger, let's say the 20 something to 30 somethings, early 30s, a lot of them do come in with budgets. They know that they can afford to buy more, but they don't want to because they maybe will have kids in the future, or they love to travel. Like, I like working with the people that have a budget and they have an understanding. There's a lot of people that come in and they're already living check to rent, and they're trying to buy. And I understand the concept of people wanting to buy because other people are as well, but homeownership isn't for everyone right now. Some people, that doesn't mean you won't ever, but sometimes it's just not the right time. And if you force it, that's where a lot of people end up getting into trouble in the future. Unfortunately, so hence the reason we've seen, you asked what some of the challenges were. We've seen credit scores go higher. Like, some companies were going down to 580. Some of them are now 680, or 660, 640, 700. There was just that big article about Chase Bank. Chase Bank wants 700 scores and 20% down. Well, you just eliminated, probably just eliminated almost all the first-time home buyers.
Right?
But there's a reason for it. It's not forever. It's temporary, and it's to balance out the forbearance piece of it. So I don't know if you know this, but I would like to share it.
Please.
So the forbearance piece of it is, if you need the forbearance because you lost your job or loss of income, you take it. There are a lot of people who are putting their loans into forbearance just because they don't want to make their mortgage payment.
Right.
So unfortunately, we're finding that because of that, I think there was over 2 million people in forbearance as of this week. So what people don't understand is, when people don't make their mortgage payment, their bank or their lender is still making their mortgage payments on their behalf.
Right.
So Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Ginnie Mae is who owns the FHA and VA loans, basically the government loans, as Caliber Home Loans. So Caliber, we service about 95% of our loans. So if our customers aren't making payments to us, we're still making the payment to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and Ginnie Mae. So the people aren't making the payments, but we are. So do you see what I mean? And I think a lot of people don't realize that, although they're taking advantage of that, which is, if you need it, that's great. But if you can afford to make your payments, keep doing it, because things like that, with the 20% down and the tightening of the guidelines and the raising of the credit scores, and like some lenders aren't doing down payment assistance anymore. We've temporarily suspended it by us as of last week, hoping to bring it back. But there's going to be, as everyone's pulling back on the risk, the big reason is, in order to bring the new people in, knowing that people are going to close and go into forbearance, we need to make sure that they don't.
Yeah.
And if they do, there's already all this other money on this side over here that's being paid out. And there's, it's like, if you take money out of your bank account, you don't have it, right? Every time you're taking withdrawals and there's no deposits, eventually you run out of funds, right?
Exactly.
So I think there's going to be a lot of companies potentially that don't make it through this crisis, and that they may go out of business. And I know people think that they're screwing the government or they're screwing their bank or whatever, but in reality, in the big picture, it's hurting all of us as consumers. It's hurting them, their families, their friends, you and I, everyone watching. It's the big picture is that these little decisions people are making now to not have a payment for a couple months are going to have really, really big consequences. And that's part of it. Seeing the tightening of guidelines, that's a big factor of it, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. it's good, and it's like you said, the fact that it just wipes out that pool of people that were first time home buyers looking
Mm-hmm.
forward to moving forward. But
Yeah.
those are things that have to be done in order to make sure we don't end up in the same situation we were in
Correct.
2008, 2009. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't ever want to face that again. That was
No.
horrible. And I've heard many people say this is nothing like 2008 and 2009. This is completely different, as long as we do things the right way.
Right. Well, 2008 and 2009 was real estate driven. The economy crashed because of real estate. This is not because of real estate. We're not, the
Right.
real estate is being affected by it, but we weren't the driving cause of it. In 2008 and 9, real estate was the driving cause of the economy crashing because of all the
Right.
foreclosures and the arms and the bad loans and everything. That is not, and I think I'm actually really happy with how quickly the industry, as much as people don't like the tightening up of guidelines and things like that, I'm actually very happy as someone who's been around as long as I have, that things got that quickly, were done that quickly to kind of stop the bleeding, if you will. And I think that each company has done a great job unifying, working with Fannie, Freddie, Ginnie, working with the CFPB. Everybody seems to really be trying to try to come together, and I feel like a lot more people are listening to us this time in the industry. Last time they didn't listen to us.
Nope.
They just made up all their own guidelines and did where they went from one extreme all the way to the other, and we've been spending all these years coming back, and we've been doing really good with it, and now this happened, but everyone jumped in pretty quickly. I feel confident that all of the industry leaders and everyone involved, I feel like we've had a voice this time around, and they've done a pretty good job of, no, you're never going to make everyone happy, of course, but in the big picture, it's something that'll save, companies won't go under. And, some people get upset because they can't buy. That doesn't mean you can't buy ever again. It just maybe means right now you don't buy. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And you buy it in the future. Save the money that you're not spending.
Perfect time to save.
Yeah.
Take advantage of what's going on now and try your best to save. If your ultimate goal is to purchase, save that money. Don't go blow it. Stimulus checks were just released. Put them in savings. Like, put them in an interest-bearing account. I don't know. Do something. If your goal is to buy, this is the time to start that plan, that plan of action to get to home ownership.
Well, I'm sure most people see their bank statements now have a lot more money in them because they're not going to Starbucks every day and Dunkin' Donuts, and like people aren't out getting coffees and buying lunch every day and all that. So I feel like more people are eating at home, and although they do the occasional, DoorDash or Grubhub, but I feel like for the most part, almost everyone I know, everyone's got their baking skills back on and their cooking skills back on, and it's just been I think people are going to see more money in their bank accounts and realize how
easy it is to budget and save, right?
Yeah, and that we tend to spend, when you're not really being conscious of it, you don't realize it until you sit down and when you look at your bank statement and go, I got an extra $400 in my checking account. And then you realize it's because you didn't go to Starbucks at all for the month, or you weren't at McDonald's every day. And you're like, holy cow, I got $400 or $500 extra. That adds up over time.
Yeah.
It really does.
I'm guilty of going to the grocery store at least twice a week. But now, since this has happened, I go twice a month. I'm not kidding. Today was one of my grocery runs. I order it in advance, and then I take a trip, and that's it for 2 weeks. If we run out, sorry, you just don't have it until the next run in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I've noticed a lot of savings. I think this started almost, 6 weeks ago? We've been
like mid-March. Yeah. I think it started, but I remember my last closing I went to was on Friday the 13th. That was the last time I was allowed to go to closing.
And then Pritzker did, I think that the 15th or 14th or something when he put the order in. Yeah. So
it was happening, but it wasn't it was like, that was like the official. Yeah.
So I would say maybe 5 weeks now.
Yep.
We have eaten out. We've gone to a restaurant one time. So I'm definitely
Right. More
happy
money.
with what I see in the bank. So yes.
Exactly. So I think people will see that, and I think it'll make people realize that. I think when people see what they actually spend their money on, I mean, we're all guilty of it.
Oh yeah.
I don't drink coffee and I don't go to McDonald's. However, when I'm at Target, easy to spend
Yes.
$100 at Target. I mean, I come home, I don't even know what the hell I bought sometimes.
Right.
You
Do
know?
you really
So,
need that? I hear from my husband
no,
all the time. You know
right.
we had one of these already.
I heard today how many bags of this certain pasta we have and that were set for 2 years, because apparently I kept buying the same one without realizing I already had it. So,
That's me.
right? But that's what I'm saying, right? So,
Yeah.
so
No,
no need.
no, and everything you're saying, it just makes perfect sense. And I'm so happy you educated us all on that, because I don't want people to mistake homeowner. I know you see a lot of posts from me and other agents just trying to promote home ownership, but for me, it's really for those that are ready. And this is why
Correct.
I like to do these live videos, just to inform people and keep people educated about it. Because like you said, it's not for everyone. And not that
No.
it's not for you ever. It's just not right now. It's
Right.
not no, just not right now.
Well, so I'm going to give you an example. And this is how I look at it, because I used to underwrite files. So as a lender, we're looking at it from a risk perspective. And we want to make sure that we're not putting this buyer into a worse position than they are right now. Okay.
Right.
So if I have a buyer who lives check to check, has NSFs in the bank, so they overdraw their account, and they don't budget their money very well. They pay $800 a month in rent. They're counting on some of their overtime from their job to qualify for a loan, but they'll call me and say, I'm tired of paying my landlord's mortgage, because that's what they hear on social media and whatever, and it's true to a certain extent. However, you have to come up with money for a down payment. So if somebody can't pay their bills at $800 in rent and they can't keep money in the bank, why am I putting them in a mortgage that they have to come up with $6,000 at the closing table? Or even if they did an IDA loan, they're still borrowing more money than they have, right? And now their mortgage payment is $1,200.
Right.
They said, oh, I can afford $1,200. But on paper, I'm looking at, you can't even afford $800. So like, I look at those things for people, and it's not because you want to, tell someone no, it's because it's what's best for them. Because if you're struggling to make your mortgage payment the way, or your rent payment the way it is now, what do you think is going to happen with the mortgage payment? And then every year the taxes go up and the insurance goes up. So you started at $1,200, now next year it might be $1,250, and you were already struggling as it was. And that doesn't stop. The taxes and insurance are going to keep going up. So if you already hit your max and you just keep going up, you hope that your job helps, you're getting promotions or you change jobs and whatever. And again, if somebody's using their overtime, and then the overtime, like right now, a lot of places aren't giving overtime anymore. So now you're probably even doing less, you're probably doing more NSFs in your bank account. So from a mindset, like, if you hear that, and even if it's not your situation, it's a little bit of an extreme one, but at the same time, look at all those layers of risk from a lending perspective. What are the chances that that person that I just told you about is going to foreclose on their house? It's probably a pretty good chance, right? When they can't afford it and they don't have the money and they can't, balance their checkbook, and all because they didn't want to pay their landlord's rent or their landlord's mortgage, and they wanted to do their own. And it's nice that people want to have their own home, and it's nice to have your own home. But like you said, timing is everything. And you want to not be put in a position that you're worse off than where you are right now.
Right, exactly.
There's things come up, as a homeowner, as a renter, when your refrigerator goes out, your landlord comes and fixes it for you. When at your house, the refrigerator goes out, you're the landlord. You're fixing the refrigerator or buying a new one, or, whatever the case may be. So you have to be prepared for those kind of things. And I think people get excited, and there's nothing wrong with being excited, but you have to just kind of stop and think that it's not always, it might not be the right time. That's all it is it just might not be the right time. And it doesn't matter if you're paying someone else's mortgage. That's you still have to pay to live somewhere anyway. So I think that part has kind of been drawn out a little bit. I know people use it, and it's true. Now, someone who's at 1,200 going to a home at 1,200, a little different story, right? Because if you can afford 1,200 and you're going to 1,200, you're not increasing your debt at all. Now you got to come up with money for down payment, but once you own it, you didn't really put yourself in a worse off position. You kind of made you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
or even if you made $100 more or $100 less, it's kind of the ones that have the payment shock that can't, budget their money as well. Those are the people I worry about. And sometimes I just don't feel comfortable because they don't pay their bills on time. They have repossessions on their credit, like their cars. They couldn't afford their cars, and they got another car payment, and it's really high because the car people will loan you money. It doesn't matter if your interest rate is 80%. And, and there's a lot of student loans out there, a lot of people with student loan
Yeah.
debt, and you see all that. And even if they're in deferment or whatever, eventually they're going to come due and you owe them. And you have to think about that's all stuff that's going to affect you in the long run.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So although it sucks to be that person that has to sit down with someone and say, do you really want to put yourself in this position? It's better to know now than to, the ostrich syndrome and bury your head in the sand and just move forward. Because once you own it, it's yours. And now the only way to get rid of it is to sell it.
Yep.
So it's that's kind of the hard part, I think, sometimes. But I also feel like a lot of the people that are learning that, I think they're understanding it's not being judgmental. It's literally caring about them enough to say, are you sure this is the right thing for you?
Exactly. It's caring,
it's not judging.
Correct. At the same time. Yep.
Correct.
Exactly.
Some people get a little upset about it because they feel that, it's their own, mindset of, my credit's bad, or I don't save my money, or it's their own insecurities. And I always make sure I let people know I'm here to help, not to judge, because I've had my own financial woes. Like you said, back during the crash, nobody was unaffected by that. So, it's what you learned from it, took away from it, and how you moved, went moving forward. So I personally rented after that time for about 4 years because I needed to get my head on straight and figure out, did I want to own again? That kind of stuff. Cause I gave up a condo back then in 2012. I did a bankruptcy, and I don't mind sharing that story with people. I went through, my ex-husband lost his job. And of course I didn't get paid for about 5 months because of what was going on. I cashed in my 401k. So we had no money. We were up to the eyeballs in credit cards trying to survive. There just was nowhere else to go. So I did a bankruptcy, held on to the condo for about a year and a half, but we were about $100,000 upside down.
Oh, wow.
And it was never going to come back. The taxes kept going up. The association kept going up, and we were paying on a worthless asset. It wasn't even an asset anymore. It was like a huge liability. So the business decision was to walk away from it. And we did. And then I rented for 4 years and said, let me just figure out what I want to do. And, so since then, I'm actually living in my place now for almost 4 years. I got divorced about 4 years ago, and I bought my own place. But I did it. It's very humble and small enough, big enough for 2 people, but it's not a big, I live within my means. So.
And that's all you need.
Yeah.
There are a lot
no
of
problem.
that want more house than they
Yes.
need. So yes, I agree with that. And thanks for sharing your story.
Oh yeah, of course. I have nothing. It's part of my past. It's who I am. It's what helped me build, and
it's why people can trust you, because you've been through it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd much rather work with someone that understands and has been through it
Mm-hmm.
than to go with someone that, like you said, is just looking for a paycheck. So I'm pretty sure there are tons of people that appreciate that story from you.
Well, it's not an easy time. You do feel like people judge you, but personally, I didn't care because no one else was paying my bills except for me. And I know that everyone was being affected. It was like you were either affected this much, this much, this much, this much. I mean, it depended on how much you owned. And to me, the more you owned, the harder you got hit.
Yeah.
So that's why for me, I'm like, I don't, I come from an Italian family and everybody wants to outdo each other. I was never that. I didn't care. I didn't get married young. I didn't have kids. All the things that everyone was supposed to do. And I didn't buy my first place till I was 34. sadly I bought in the height of the bubble, unfortunately, and then that happened. But at the same time, here I got my beautiful place. It's my place. It's, I can afford it, and it's mine. And, and I came back from those. And that's what I try to tell people. It's the time. There's a lot of people that happens to them and they want to buy right away again. Why?
Yeah.
You need to own something. You already gave up your place and you went through it. Now you got to wait. There's a waiting period. You got to wait. So you got to. Exactly. And there's a waiting period for a reason. And I don't know if it's the people who want to own or if it's the people around them. Sometimes I think people want to do what other people want them to do. And I'm not good with that personally. It doesn't matter. I pay my bills, not someone else. So I'm going to have the decision, not them, so it doesn't matter to me. I have friends that live in $1 million houses and $20,000 a year taxes, and their houses are beautiful, but I wouldn't want to be in that position personally.
Yeah. And who knows what's going on behind closed doors.
Exactly.
That life is great.
Yeah.
You have millionaires living paycheck to paycheck.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, the stock market, all the people that lost money in the last, it's coming back, but nonetheless, or the big car payments. That's another thing I never understood. I was dealing with a lady earlier today that has a $985 a month car payment, and she's upset that she can't afford a house.
That's a mortgage. What?
I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I personally would never. And that's her thing. Good for her. But then she was upset she didn't qualify for a mortgage. But why do you have a $985 payment? So, and again, I don't know. Maybe she wants to show everyone. I don't even know what she drives. I don't ask, and I don't care. But that's a big mortgage. That's a big car payment, and she had a big balance. So it was a nice car. It wasn't like a, so I don't know what she's driving.
That depreciates. That's not even.
I know.
She's never going to get that back. Ever.
She probably can't refinance it either. A lot of people try to refinance them and they're upside down on the cars too. So yeah, I don't know. But those are the decisions you have to make. Do you want to live in a nice house and drive a modest car, or do you want to drive the Ferrari and rent or live with family? And neither one of those is wrong, right? It's whatever the people want. But you have to know that there's consequences to your decisions and your actions. And if you buy a $985 a month car, if you have a $985 a month car payment, you're probably not going to have a good chance of buying a house, because she also had a big student loan payment too.
Oh,
so she was, she was like really, really nice lady, but she was kind of not really going to be able to buy anything. So yeah.
Oh, that sucks.
I know. Well, unless she sells her car.
her story, right. At least she gets.
Some people will. I've had people that'll sell their car to buy a house. I'd rather have the house. I'll sell my truck. I just had someone do that last year. He sold his pickup because he'd rather have a house.
Well, that's the sacrifice. But you can't have. Sometimes you can't have both.
No, it's true. So, and that's the important stuff. Having credit card balances, if you want to have all the TVs and the iPhones and all, again, that's great, but that's usually bought on credit. And
you got to set priorities for yourself. What's most important.
Right.
Well, I do, again, appreciate you saying these things, because I'm sure even if it's just one person that heard that story or heard what you just said, it will help them.
I hope so.
Maybe help them think about if they were going to the car lot to look for that fancy car. Maybe now they'll think about it before they sign up first. And these are things that should, again, be discussed before you purchase the home, not after, not when you're in pre-foreclosure and about to lose your home. Right. These are things that should be spoken about and not, it doesn't have to go into great detail, but as a realtor and as you as a loan officer, hopefully we are willing to have these conversations with our clients. Absolutely. Just so that they are prepared. Because for me, if I was on the receiving end and I was the buyer and nobody talked to me about these things before I purchased my home and then I went into default, I would kind of be a little bitter, like, why didn't you tell me? Because everybody doesn't know, you know, it's
Right.
you, if they did, they would probably be in our industry if they were
Right.
educated. So
Right.
it's our job to educate people and to make sure they understand.
Well, I agree. And I think a big part of it too is, again, people need, if it's what you want, it's okay. But there's also a lot of people that look for the quick fix.
Mm-hmm.
They go through credit repair and they have a lot of items removed from their credit, or, you know, things, or, you know, they pay off a lot of debt just so that they can qualify for a loan. And then they find out they still can't qualify for a loan, but they used all their money to pay off the debt. I mean, so there's, you know, unfortunately, you're going to find people that maybe aren't always telling you the right information. I mean, we have to be able to trust each other as humans. However, if something doesn't seem right when someone's telling you, it's never a bad thing to get a second opinion.
Never.
You know, and talk to the right people. Like, my favorite is when Uncle Joe is trying to tell someone about a mortgage when they haven't bought a house in 30 years.
Yes.
I'm always
Thank
like, why don't you
you.
have Uncle Joe give me a call so I could talk to him and tell him what's going on?
Oh
This
my
is not
goodness.
30 years ago. It's not like
Yes.
that. So, you know, but, and then sometimes people will listen because that's who they know. They don't know me, they know them. But I'll say, what is Uncle Joe? Is Uncle Joe a loan officer? Well, no, he's a mechanic. Okay, well, when you need your car fixed, you go talk to Uncle Joe.
Thank
In the
you.
meantime, you talk to me. You know,
Thank
like that. Or another loan officer. I mean, just, you know, and I understand people mean well when they want to help, but sometimes some of the decisions people make are with wrong information, and then they can't fix it
Yep.
because it's too
Yes.
late now. And that's why I think it's really important. If I think one of the greatest lessons I learned years and years ago was when I'm ready to make a hasty decision, I visualize a stoplight in my head and I hit the yellow light and I stop for a minute. Cause I'm a very like go, 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 go kind of person. And there's times where I've learned I hit the yellow light, I stop and I think about how is this going to affect me if I say this, if I do this, if I don't do this, if that happens, if that, it doesn't always help me, but for the most part it does, because I've stopped myself from making rash decisions just because I might be, you know, pissed off or aggravated, or, you know, you get frustrated, just that whatever it may be, and sometimes we let our emotions control us.
Mm-hmm.
I get a lot of people that tell me I didn't pay my credit card bill and let it go into collections because I hate Bank of America and they weren't listening to me and I wanted to teach them a lesson. You didn't teach Bank of
They
America a
taught you.
lesson. You hurt yourself. You didn't hurt. And at this point, people are to already understand that it hurt them, and they're like even more angry about it. But you're angry you're at yourself because
Yeah.
you led by emotion and you didn't pay a bill that was your responsibility for whatever the reason was. And that's fine if you want to take a stand. But then when something like that stands in your way, again, I'm a big consequences person, in case you haven't figured that out. And I believe we all have to be held accountable for the decisions that we make.
Yeah.
It's and one of the things I'll tell you, like I just said in the call I was in earlier, don't sign your name to anything if you don't understand what you're signing. And that's like the best advice I could give people. Go right to the fine print, because the fine print is going to tell you all you need to know about everything. And don't sign anything that you don't know what it is. If you don't understand it, because when you're signing that, you're acknowledging that you read it and you understand it. So when you want to come crying back later that I didn't know what I was signing,
Too late.
your name's on there, you signed it.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important thing when people are signing their loans. They need to understand the terms. When you're buying a new phone and this forbearance stuff, a lot of people, they're not reading. They're just going online and clicking buttons, and they don't even know what the consequence. They're not even reading. I've asked people, what is your servicer going to do at the end of 90 days? I don't know. Well, what did you sign it? I signed it. They told me they're going to not let me make payments, but what's going to happen? I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
But I know those people 90 days from now, they're going to be screaming and crying because they didn't know this and they didn't know that, but they signed it and they didn't care. So to me, again, I don't sign anything without understanding it, and I don't think other people should either. I think it's important for everyone to ask questions, and because when you sign your name is gold, and you put it on the line, you said you know what you're signing, you understood it. So I think that's a big part of it. And as far as the fine print goes, I go right to the fine print. And when I talk to people, like the first thing I talk about with people is the cost of the loan. Because a lot of people don't talk about that. They wait until the end, like they get people all excited about the loan, and then they tell them like what, how much what are the costs and everything. I like to get that out of the way in the beginning because I feel like that's what's on everyone's minds, and
Yep.
they're not listening to the other stuff.
Oh,
And not on purpose, right? They're not on purpose. It's just, I know I would want to go, hey, you know what? I know I want to buy this, but I need to know how much it is. And then once I know how much it is, then I'll listen to what someone has to tell me.
yeah.
Because I need to understand that first, because otherwise people are like this. Oh, it sounds so good, but now I like it, and now I can't afford it or whatever. And I don't agree with that. So to me, I'm always like the one who points out the fine print first.
Yeah.
I'll go right to all that stuff in the very beginning, because then I feel like it's easy after that. Once you understand those parts of it, the rest of it is nothing. It's nonsense, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, so.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's just always my way. That's what I would want. If I was
I
someone,
agree.
if I was if I was the person who is sitting in front of a loan officer, that's what I would want.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
so.
exactly. That 100%. That is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you.
Tina, truly, truly appreciate your time today. Can
Thank
you
you.
let everyone know that's going to be watching how they can contact you if they're in need of services?
Yes, so my cell phone is 312-391-2185. I do have a website, mortgagetina.com. You can apply on the website. You can email me through the website. You can text me or call me. My cell phone is always the best way to get a hold of me. And I'm always happy to answer questions, you know. And one thing I will say, to me, no questions, the unasked questions are the dumb questions. That's my thought. So just to end with that. So, but thank you for thinking of me. I really appreciate the opportunity to help educate anyone who's willing to learn.
Of course, and hopefully this is the first of many more, because I enjoy myself.
Yeah, same. Me too. So let me know whenever, if you ever want to do it again, just let me know.
Perfect, will do. Thank you so much, Tina. Again, this is Kalila from Caremark Realty Group. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I think both Tina and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have. So feel free to post questions in the comments or reach out to us directly. And my cell phone number is 773-704-8629. And my website is www.kalilaadams.com. That's KHALILAADAMS.com. I had to think, like, wait a minute, it's a lot of A's in there. That's it. But thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night. Please tell Norm I said hi or good night.
Bye. Yeah, he's waving in the background.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too. Have a good night. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.